South Florida. This is Headliners, only on CBS News Miami.
Hi there and welcome to Headliners. I'm Lauren Pastrana. Moments of confusion leading to bloodshed. In recent weeks, we've reported about people across the country, including here in Florida, being shot at and even killed for what seem like innocent mistakes. About 30 states have stand your ground laws, but when can you use your gun to protect yourself legally? CBS News Miami's Chelsea Jones is breaking that down for us.
Peyton Washington, Ralph Yarl, Kinsley White, and Kaylin Gillis. All shot, one killed. Peyton got in the wrong car. Ralph and Kaylin went to the wrong house. Kinsley was shot after a basketball rolled into the wrong yard. Unrelated common mistakes that each ended with a gun. So when do you have the green light to fire off your weapon?
What both stand your ground and what's called the castle doctrine allows you to do is to use the same force that's being used against you.
Former Florida state and federal prosecutor David Weinstein says no two cases are the same.
So that means if somebody drives onto your property and they're looking for an address and it's the wrong place, you can't just go out and start shooting at them.
Nearly 60 million guns were purchased between 2020 and 2022, and roughly 46% of adults in this country live with a gun in their house. Come July 1st in Florida, you won't need a permit anymore to carry a concealed weapon, but there are exceptions to where guns will still not be allowed. The police station, prison, the courthouse, polling places, government buildings, schools and airports, to name a few. But more and more we're seeing gunfire erupt after innocent confusion.
That's one here, right here. Right here.
In Southwest Ranches, an Instacart driver was making her last delivery for the night, and she showed up to the wrong house.
I seen him pull out the gun and he had clicked it back. So then I was like, let's go. We got to go.
But the shooter tells police he was hit by the vehicle and feared for his children's safety, and that his intention was to disable the vehicle so that it was no longer a danger.
You better really be able to articulate why you chose to pull out a weapon and use it against someone.
Retired Miami Police Chief George Kalina says stand your ground laws are written ambiguously, but it's not a protection for shooting just anyone who comes at you.
You can ask them to leave. You can ask them why they're there, what it is they want to do.
Attorney Weinstein says we typically don't see arrests right away in these cases because law enforcement has to investigate first. They have to determine if the right amount of force was used and if the shooting was justified. In the studio, I'm Chelsea Jones, CBS News, Miami.
Florida's restrictive abortion laws are causing concern among some physicians that life-saving care for high-risk patients will no longer be available. CBS News Miami's Christian Benavides spoke with one woman whose rare pregnancy complication almost cost her life a day after she says she was denied an abortion.
Out since then because it's really hard to look at.
Anya Cook has stuffed animals in a wardrobe for the baby daughter she was expecting.
She was a real fighter up until the moment I delivered her.
That happened in the bathroom of a hair salon when she was just 16 weeks pregnant.
I heard my daughter. I heard her hit the water.
Bleeding uncontrollably, Cook was rushed to a hospital and almost died.
How much blood had you lost?
Half the blood in my body.
Cook had been in a different hospital the day before when her water broke. There she was diagnosed with a premature rupture of the membrane that put her at risk for developing a deadly infection. She was given an antibiotic, told to follow up with her obstetrician and come back if symptoms worsened.
The fetus will not survive, and you're still telling me I have to leave?
That hospital told CBS News they followed instructions from Cook's OBGYN, but Cook says the ER doctor told her he couldn't do more because of Florida's 15-week ban on abortion.
I just don't understand. You already go through so much through this process of IVF. Now I have to fight the law.
Up until recently, Florida had long been considered a safe haven for abortion rights in the South.
How much risk is enough risk to end a pregnancy?
Dr. Karen Harris, an OBGYN, testified in front of Florida's legislature against a new, even more restrictive 6-week ban on abortion.
It is a very sad state of affairs when physicians need to consult the laws and penal code before we consult the medical textbooks.
Anya and her husband continue their journey to parenthood, hoping to one day welcome a child. Cristian Benavides, CBS News, Coconut Creek, Florida.
It's safe to say South Floridians know how to prepare for hurricanes, but when it comes to tornadoes, that's a whole other story. We recently saw one destroy an area of Palm Beach Gardens, and we've had several tornado warnings just in the past few weeks. So how do you prepare for a twister? CBS News Miami's Gabrielle Arzola has more.
Oh my God, it's something many South Floridians have never seen before. Cars being whipped around by a tornado in Palm Beach Gardens.
Tornado, tornado, tornado.
April was a busy month for weather, which is unusual, according to our chief meteorologist, Ivan Cabrera.
April is typically a quiet month. Don't ask 2023. It was a completely different story.
Now, the big misconception here is that tornadoes would only strike down in rural areas, but that's certainly not the case.
And not just in rural areas and metro areas. Obviously, they can happen in both, but I just think folks aren't used to that here in South Florida.
So what exactly do we do in a tornado warning? We asked Chief Meteorologist Scott Padgett from CBS News Dallas, who's no stranger to tornadoes.
If you know that there's a warning right where you are, get off the road, because you don't want to be in that projectile necessarily with a car. A car is one of the most dangerous places to be if a tornado is coming through.
And if you're inside?
Having a safety plan in place, just knowing lowest level of your house, most interior room possible. If you're in an apartment building, condo building, get away from the windows, get to that stairwell if you can, get to the lower level if you can, get away from the glass lobbies. Because those doors can blow up and glass can go everywhere, and just try to go into the most interior portion of that building.
Unlike hurricanes, tornado warnings come very quickly. But the good news here is that it doesn't happen often.
We get up to 11 a year. 90% of them are on the EF0, EF1. What does that mean? Well, winds up to 110 miles an hour. And this is the key, the alert time. You get 10 to 15 minutes. If you don't have your alerts, if you don't have your apps, that's all you get.
I'm Gabrielle Arzola, CBS News, Miami.
When headliners return, see what doctors are saying may be the reason your child is getting sick more often, and the treatments they believe may lead to the solution.
From South Florida, this is Headliners, only on CBS News Miami.
Welcome back. I'm Lauren Pastrana. If you're a parent who's noticed your kids and those around them are getting sick more often and for longer periods of time, it's not your imagination. Doctors say some pediatricians are now being forced to seek more aggressive treatments. It's a solution as complex as the cause. CBS News Miami's Larry Seward has that story for us.
Gearing up for his 5th birthday, Liam Gamadian is on a cycle his parents and pediatricians want to break. Since the beginning of the COVID-19 pandemic, Liam gets fevers more often, and each prescription dose that follows grows stronger.
It's the same treatment, but I guess that's the way how they do a more aggressive treatment. In a month or so, he would visit his doctor like about 3 times versus like he could go before. He could go maybe 3 or 6 months without seeing the doctor or having any kind of sickness at all.
Members of the American Academy of Pediatrics Florida chapter see widespread problems. Kids recovering from COVID developing diabetes at younger ages, along with long-term respiratory struggles and anxiety. While Centers for Disease Control data shows 90% of children under 18 have had COVID, Dr. Tressa Gambon thinks there are other factors.
The kids with respiratory tendencies or might have had a tendency to have asthma or allergies, we've had to treat more aggressively.
She says pandemic isolation limited kids' exposure to infectious diseases. Throw in liquid amoxicillin shortages, and it became difficult to handle and treat conditions that used to be more easily controlled.
It seems like kids who have asthma, respiratory tendencies, problems that they might have had allergies before, some of those kids have had more problems, and we've had to treat them a little bit more aggressively than we might have in the past.
But pediatricians say kids are resilient and should bounce back eventually. Liam is all smiles. His parents just hope it's a lasting break from his fevers. In Doral, Larry Seward, CBS News Miami.
Mental health and sports haven't always gone hand in hand, but that's something local teams are hoping to change. During Mental Health Awareness Month, teams are partnering with school districts to improve mental health among student athletes, parents, coaches, and administration. A panel was held at John A. Ferguson High School in Miami, where student athletes had the opportunity to have impactful conversations about emotional wellness. CBS News Miami's Trish Christakis has the story.
Well, it's called Great Minds, Great Athletes, and the sole purpose is to provide mental health support to student athletes. And what better way for these athletes to connect and feel heard than with the professional athletes themselves?
You are not your sport, okay? Your sport's what you do. It's not who you are.
The Miami Marlins joined forces with Miami-Dade County Public Schools and others to highlight the importance of mental health in student athletes.
Think about mental health. It wasn't something that I really thought about. I didn't fail a ton going up into high school in baseball, and I wish I would have known how to deal with failure a little bit better once it came, because for everybody it's going to come.
A taboo topic in the sports world that professional athletes are trying to change for the younger generation.
Because I'm gonna picture myself like, how do you cope when you have like a bad outing on the mound?
Hearing them talk and telling us how to think when we're playing our sport, it's like a switch up for our life. After hearing them, we're like, wow, like we could be them one day.
It gave the student athletes a way to connect and relate to players that they aspire to be.
I wish I had something like this at this age. Dealing with failure is really hard when you're not used to it.
A volleyball player at John A. Ferguson is going through one of the more mentally challenging aspects of athletics, overcoming an injury.
I think it gave me hope, seeing how good these guys are coming back from the injury, because right now, like the mental part, it's kind of scary. So seeing how they came back and they could still be who they are is encouraging.
And the advice was endless.
Lean on the people that you love for help, your friends and family. John, I think she had an ACL, so she's probably got several months. So just find those hobbies and healthy habits, and it'll all turn out to be good.
Something the Marlins are hoping to continue doing for student athletes right here in South Florida.
It's really special, that they can reflect on, their careers and what they've gone through and share that with the kids and help them. It's a big deal, and to see the kids react, they were so excited when the players came in. That means a lot to the players, too.
Trish Christakis, CBS News, Miami.
When Headliners returns, helping keep South Florida as green as it can be. Next, we'll show you a big step being taken to accomplish just that and why it's so important.
From South Florida, this is Headliners, only on CBS News Miami.
Welcome back. I'm Lauren Pastrana. One day people may look back and see a much greener Miami-Dade County. That's because Mayor Daniela Levine Cava's initiative to plant more trees has officially kicked off, or should we say taken root. CBS News Miami's Jacqueline Quinn shares how this will keep the heat away and help low-income areas.
Miami is a hot place. We're called the Miami Heat for a reason, right?
Which is why shade is a valuable commodity around here, yet many places are bare.
I was born in the James East public housing community.
Today, only one preserved building where Miami-Dade County Commissioner Keon Hardiman grew up remains in Liberty City. But around the area, you can see other shuttered public housing and the lack of trees.
Growing up in Liberty City, it was a place that we didn't necessarily see the value in trees as a young kid. And in fact, I didn't see a lot of tree plantings in our community.
Commissioner Hardiman says low-income communities tend to have less canopy.
Here's a look at how things look different here in Liberty City. You see, without a lot of tree canopy, it's quite sunny. And then there are neighborhoods like this with a denser tree canopy and a lot more shade.
But change is coming. This Wednesday, Miami-Dade County Mayor Daniela Levine Cava kicked off an initiative to plant trees at all county facilities across the county.
We have a goal of by 2030 to have a 30% tree canopy, especially in these areas.
That means more trees near county buildings like the Joseph Caleb Center, but also near public housing.
I remember it being extremely hot in Miami. I remember just having to deal with it.
But heat can also cause sickness. Research by the University of Florida shows from 2010 to 2020, they found 215 people died from heat in the state. They project the number of deaths will rise because of climate change, and they found that people die in Florida year-round, not just in summer months.
In fact, in our heat vulnerability study, zip codes like this one have 3 to 4 times higher rates of emergency department visits for heat-related illnesses than areas with more tree canopy. So this is a health solution.
The county only owns about 7% of the land within the county, so it can't solve the problem entirely. It says the rest is up to private property owners to pitch in.
There's a misunderstanding about what trees do in wind events. They actually do protect because they act as a barrier.
Staff members at the county's Division of Environmental Resources Management say they can help you find the right tree to plant. There's even a county adopt-a-tree program for free trees. In Miami, I'm Jacqueline Quinn, CBS News, Miami.
And finally, this week's Miami Proud is about hope and determination, as seen through the eyes of one of South Florida family and a medical daycare and therapy center called Patches. CBS News Miami's Jim Barry shows you how Patches is working miracles for many kids, including a girl named Ellie, who has an extremely rare genetic condition.
Ellie is our middle daughter. She's 8 years old, and she is amazing.
Ellie was a preemie born at 33 weeks and just under 4 pounds, the second and biggest premature baby for Dahlia and Tony Barrichter. So they thought, we got this at first.
There was nothing obviously wrong with her, you know. It was more like progressively for her, instead of getting ready to get discharged, they kept noticing more and more complications.
It was difficult news. Ellie has a very rare genetic condition called Odo syndrome.
It's a Cat6B gene mutation that affects her physical development and her intellectual development. And there's a handful of individuals around the world who have it, and we are one of them.
Ellie's care was complex, with 3 therapists coming to their then rural North Carolina home. When she was 18 months, they moved to South Miami-Dade and found Patches.
Patches is kind of the place that we didn't know we needed until we came here, kind of thing, you know? Everything was unknown, like everything was new all the time. And so having Patches was just like I said, just a relief.
The special nursing care and therapy for newborns to age 21 with all kinds of complications has been a lifesaver.
I've been seeing her for therapy since she was very tiny. So I've seen her learn to sit, learn to move around, learn to hold things, learn to eat.
For nearly 7 years now, 5 days a week, Ellie keeps surprising everyone.
She took her first few unassisted steps, which is a huge milestone. And we were all in shock because we didn't expect it to happen then.
When you say it takes a village to take care of these kids, it takes a village. Personally, it goes back to my kids. You have 2 twins, 1 pound 14 ounces, 1 pound 15 ounces, that will start high school next year because of Patches.
Whether the children stay here through age 21 or graduate to attend regular school, it is a place giving families much needed help and hope.
It's like fantastic and it's so scary. it's like all the things, but it's amazing to see her doing those things that we weren't sure if they would ever happen.
Jim Barry, CBS News, Miami.
Just amazing to see her progress. Keep going, Ellie. Thanks for joining us this half hour on Headliners. As always, keep it right here to CBS News Miami for up-to-the-minute breaking news and weather 24 hours a day. Make it a great one.